closer. All right, we have a little bit of action from closed session that we have to vote on. So case 124-25. Do we have a motion there?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then case 224-25.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
And finally, case 324-25.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then lastly, we voted to release a probationary employee. That's a 4-0 vote, with one member absent. And that was everything. I'm going to go to the announcement of our meeting protocols. So the Board of Trustees encourages public participation during the meeting and requests civility and the use of courteous language. The board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any participant and or district employee. There will be an opportunity to speak tonight to the Board of Trustees on items not on the agenda during the public comment, item 4.5, as well as opportunities to speak to each item on the agenda when that item comes up for consideration. In the interest of facilitating the conduct of the public's business, members of the public who wish to address the board during the meeting will have specific time limits as follows. If less than 10 members of the public wish to comment on agenda or non-agenda items, the time limit for each public comment will be 3 minutes per person. And if 10 or more members of the public wish to comment, it will be a time limit of 90 seconds. A complaint about a specific employee or employees of the district should be made to that employee's immediate supervisor or the school site principal as outlined in our board policy and administrative regulation. And please complete the form, the comment form from the side table in the back if you are wishing to speak tonight, and we will call you when it is your turn. And this meeting is being audio, video recorded, and will be archived. All right, so we are going to go right into our special recognition presentations tonight. Rob.
Good evening. This evening, I'm glad to come before you and present to you the nominee for the RJUHSD Counselor of the Year. Last week, we were lucky enough to celebrate National School Counselors Week, and we had the opportunity, hopefully, if you can't see, hopefully you can switch inside. If you can't see, hopefully you can turn around and see our teams. We are incredibly blessed in this district to have incredible counseling teams. I come from a district prior to being in this district where we did not have counselors. I know how difficult it is to run a school without having counselors there, serving and supporting our students on a daily basis. And the counselors that are depicted in all of these pictures that are up on the screen today do an incredible job of working tirelessly with our students and with our families. And it was great to recognize and honor each of them last week. And tonight, we get the opportunity to recognize one particular school counselor as the RJUHSD Counselor of the Year. If you recall, just like with our Teacher of the Year presentations, the RJUHSD Counselor of the Year will move forward to the Placer County process and could be named the Placer County School Counselor of the Year. So with that, I'm just going to say a few brief things, and then I will introduce our School Counselor of the Year. There's a definition that I found of a school counselor, and it goes like this. A counselor is patient, empathetic, and a resourceful professional. Also, a multitasking ninja, helping students with their goals and challenges, collaborating with teachers, administrators, and families to develop and implement plans for students, fostering resilience and restoring hope. I can't think of any better words to describe our RJUHSD Counselor of the Year, Erica Joseph. I had the opportunity to work with Erica when John and I opened up Antelope High School, and I can attest to the incredible work that she does each and every day with kids and the families at Antelope High School. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Erica Joseph Bradley and her principal, Lindsay Cutts.
Before we begin, I'd like to have it in the notes, please. Tonight is Erica's son's 10th birthday. Eli's 10th birthday. It is my honor to introduce Erica Joseph tonight, the RJUHSD Counselor of the Year. Erica is part of an exceptional team of counselors at Antelope High School, and her strengths stand out among the talented group that I get to work with every day. Erica connects with her students in an incredibly authentic way. She holds them accountable, she challenges them and their excuses, and she pushes them to be honest, not just with her, but with themselves. Erica doesn't allow for shortcuts or complacency. She expects students to rise to their highest potential every day. However, Erica isn't just all talk. She walks right along students through it all. Her students know that she's going to push them and that she's going to be right there with them the whole time. Erica is one of the founding members of Antelope High School and is currently our liaison with Sierra College. Her academic knowledge is unparalleled. During one-on-one meetings with students and parents each year, Erica is able to help students articulate their goals and then plan with them to get there, whether that's through CTE pathways, dual enrollment, advanced placement, internships, et cetera, it goes on. But I can say without a doubt that Erica's students are well prepared for life after high school. I've been in student meetings with Erica where one of our highest achieving students thinks it's okay to slack off their senior year, and I've seen Erica set that student straight really quick. I've also been in meetings with students who are really, truly struggling with their mental health and just trying to hold on. And Erica's genuine empathy and compassion is the lifeline for those students in those moments. Couldn't be more different situations, but Erica's honesty and compassion make her exactly what students need in that moment. When I was first hired as an assistant principal, I was matched up with Erica as the counselor I worked with. That is, we shared the same alpha of students. Thanks for that, John. She scared me a little bit at first, but in a good way. I didn't realize at the time just how much working with Erica would impact my own growth as an administrator and a leader. She pushed me to widen my perspective, to think outside the box, and to always keep students in the center of my decision making. Of course, no one can sum up a counselor's impact quite like the students they serve, so here are some words from one of her more recent graduates, so you can figure out who it is. Ms. Joseph was not only a key part of my high school experience, but also my life. As my counselor for all 4 years at Antelope, she was my rock. Some of my favorite memories from Antelope are stopping by her office and talking to her about anything and everything, playing with the box of sand on her desk. I know that box as well. She was always one of the first people I told when I got each of my college acceptances. As a first-generation college student, she guided me in ways that my parents couldn't. Ms. Joseph and her family even came to support me at a startup competition when my family couldn't be there. I owe my ambition and my success to Ms. Joseph, and I can't think of anyone more deserving of this award. Erica, thank you for all you do for the students, families, and staff of our Antelope community, and congratulations again on being named Counselor of the Year. Happy birthday. Actually, I didn't say it, but we do those too. Ellie's birthday is coming to us on Sunday. All right, I will put it down.
All right, we are moving on to item 4.1, our board expectations, and trustee Oz is going to read that for us tonight.
Okay, board expectations, prepare all students for life academic success. Engage in partnership with families and the community. The school is a welcoming, safe environment that serves as the center of student learning, activities, athletics, and performing arts. Promote a sense of community in our schools and the surrounding areas. Utilize effective governance and business practices. Remain open, transparent, and accountable to the community. Serve as an employer of choice with the highest quality teachers and staff.
Great, thank you. And then moving on to board reports, do you want to start? And then we'll go down to our student board member.
Sure, thank you. First, I want to say congratulations to our wonderful superintendent who was recently chosen as superintendent of the year. Good job, John. Not that we really needed affirmation that we picked the right guy, but see, we picked the right guy. So, a few things that I've done since the last board meeting. As you know, I sit on the Placer County Committee for Reorganization. That committee has been around for a long time, and it's still got bylaws and sort of processes that were approved by the board back in 1990s, and the law has changed significantly since then. So we've created an ad hoc committee to bring those bylaws up to date, and there's 3 of us who are working on that. Had the opportunity to meet with a couple of our County Board of Education trustees to talk about the different things that we do and how we can leverage and help each other from our respective boards. And then probably one of the most enjoyable things I did is, as you know, we have a school that's in another county, in Sacramento County, Antelope High School, and that area just got a new county supervisor. They've had the same supervisor for quite a long time, but recently Rosario Rodriguez has taken the seat there representing that area. So I had the pleasure of meeting her at Antelope High School and spending some time with Lindsay to really talk about what makes our school district unique compared to what she's used to in other parts of Sacramento County and in the Folsom community where she is from. We also talked about what makes Antelope High School unique within our school district, and talked a lot about the culture and the different things that we do there. We spent so much time talking, we almost didn't get much chance to do any touring, so we'll do that at a future time. But I think the meeting was very, very positive. I don't think Rosario would be offended if I said she knew nothing about our school. She was really, really absorbing it all in, and I think that she left with a very good appreciation of our high school district, how we operate Antelope, and how it serves the community there in Antelope, and really understanding some of the challenges that we have as a school district when we work with 3 different police agencies as we try to keep our students and staff safe during the day. And she has pledged her commitment to work with us to ensure that Sacramento County, Placer County Sheriffs, and the Roseville Police Department continue to have the relationship and to really build upon that and to ensure that we have the appropriate resources from the county at Antelope High School. So we're very, very excited that we had the opportunity to share that with her and look forward to working with her as we move forward. Thanks.
Okay, I will highlight that I was able to go with Trustee Schutz and go to Wood Creek High School, where Craig Garabedian led us on a visit along with Jesse Padilla there at Wood Creek High School of 3 of the special education programs: the functional skills program, the adult transition program, and the therapeutic intervention program. It was very educational for me, very informative. I so appreciated the significant work that our special ed teachers do and the support that they receive from the site, specifically Wood Creek that I went to, but I know the other sites also have that. It was great to see in the functional skills program, Rachel Butler, the teacher that we talked to, talked about how important the peer helpers were on campus. And then going into the adult transition program, these were students ages 18 to 22. I was so impressed with these students. They were sharp kids. They knew what was going on, and they were just getting ready to head out to their work sites at Eschaton, Count Pele's Pizza, Walgreens, and Green Acres. And they were excited to tell me about their jobs there. And I was really impressed that they knew how to go catch the bus and get to the job, and I couldn't have done that at all. They would have been needing to help me, so I appreciated that. We saw a bathroom that was set up to support the staff to help take care of our special education students with dignity, and I appreciated that. And then we headed over to the little building behind the Challenge High School, which is the therapeutic intervention program, and it was great to go in those doors, see those students working in there, and see what was happening. So I really appreciated that for Wood Creek High School.
All right. Well, Trustee Coleman and I also got to attend PCOE, Placer County Office of Ed, Finance course training, which was fun. We left feeling really educated and grateful for Joe. Because he helps us with so much of that. And then piggybacking a little bit off of what Trustee Constance said, I was able to attend the 2025 Placer County ASCA, Association of California School Administrators. It's easier for me to just say it. And we have 4 winners from our district, so I just wanted to highlight those really quick. So Lisa Voss from the Adult Education, Roseville Adult School, won for Adult Education Administrator of the Year. And then from Wood Creek High School, Jessie Padilla for Secondary Co-Administrator of the Year. And then our Technology Administrator of the Year was Mike Fisher. And then, of course, John Becker for Superintendent of the Year. So moving forward now, Lisa, Mike, and John will represent Placer County and the district at the Region 2 Administrator of the Year competition coming up on Friday, March 21st. And that will include all of the nominees from several counties throughout Northern California. So we're wishing them lots of luck in that competition. Is that the right word? It's a competition. Okay, it feels like Survivor or something. I'm sure I might feel that way some days. And then lastly, I got to attend my last ever freshman orientation for my 8th grader at Roseville High, who's coming into the school. And I've been to several of them, and this one was just packed. Standing room only in the Patty Baker Theater, and then less than standing room only in the cafeteria, just buzzing with excitement and the kids that are excited to start at Roseville High next year. And so it was sweet and emotional, but I didn't cry. So anyway, that's all.
I'm just happy to be here. Since I've been sick for so long, I'm sorry I had to cancel some site visits, and I lost all January, so move on.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Well, Tiffany, you definitely shared we were at Wood Creek. Really quite a treat meeting with some of the students. They're really doing some incredible things with your teams and the teachers and all the support staff there. Very impressive, and it was a great visit to come over there. Also wanted to shout out to the Granite Bay Today reporters and the editorial board that invited us to the newcomers to the board, or repeat newcomers to the board, to be interviewed and have some discussions. It was really nice meeting with them. I'm glad they reached out to us. Just mentioning kind of a crossover with AXA Awards. It was Jesse Padilla was walking us around Wood Creek, and he had just won the award. So it's really great for him, and congrats to him and all the recipients. Last night, a little sobering. I attended the informational on fentanyl and one pill could kill campaign that was over at West Park. Some really brave parents whose children have died through fentanyl, and it's really sobering and a real strong message. And I'm glad our students are hearing it. That these parents are going through this every time and seem really traumatic, but it's really great that they're doing that. Because if they can really save one student's life, it's worth it. So that was sobering, but definitely informational, and I'm glad things are being done proactively in our county to address that. One last thing, I was not at the last board meeting, but I did review the video and heard our discussion about the board members on our SIL committee, which is our curriculum instructional leadership team, and some of the other liaison positions. And I just want to say I appreciate that conversation and Pete bringing that forward. I'm new to the board. I had volunteered to participate on that SILT as a way to observe, but I had some reservations of it that was this in alignment with our policies. So I'm glad you highlighted that, and I'm glad we're going down that route. I think it'll be more efficient and beneficial to those involved on those committees to really do their function well. So anyways, thanks for that, board. I'm glad you voted yes. So with that, I'll ask Mike.
Hi, I'm Bella Simmons. I'm the student board representative for Granite Bay High School and also the ASB president. I'm so honored and thankful to be here. This is my first meeting. So since the start of the year, we've been up to many things, starting new classes, events, and athletics. Students have started this semester strong with the many academic classes we have on campus. Students and staff have been working hard and working together to succeed this semester. For events-wise, we just had our February Fling formal dance. It's a new winter formal dance we are having because we also just had our new formal homecoming in October. And we have our annual Power Puff coming up in April that many students are very excited about. Our athletics have been doing amazing with the transitioning of ending of winter sports and beginning of spring sports. Our student athletes have been working very hard this semester. And overall, our students on campus have been having a great and motivating start to this semester. And yeah.
And Mr. Sloan is going to come and introduce Bella to us.
So who is this Bella Simmons? Well, good evening, board and community. It's my privilege to introduce Bella Simmons as your new student board member representing Granite Bay. She is a senior, an exemplary leader, role model who has made a lasting impact at our school in her 3.5 years so far. She's our current ASB president. She's been in StuGov for 7 times now. There was one term she didn't take it. I'm sure she regrets that. But she's dedicated herself to improving campus life and helping all students to feel like they belong. She brings a wealth of experience to this role, having been actively involved in nearly every aspect of student life at Granite Bay High School. She's a 4-year member of our cheerleading team, a familiar voice on campus, delivering the daily bulletin over the loudspeaker with great enthusiasm. And academically, she's well-rounded, taking a variety of IB, AP, and fun elective courses, dance and other things that reflect her curiosity and love for learning. She has a genuine passion for serving others. She approaches every challenge with a positive attitude, balances many commitments, and stays connected and supportive to those around her. So I'm honored to have Bella represent Granite Bay in this role, and I look forward to her voice at these board meetings. Thank you.
Okay, then 5.4, superintendent and any communications.
Yes, there's a handful of communications here today. So one, from the State Controller's Office, we received a certification letter for the Roosevelt High School modernization. Essentially, the State Controller's Office has completed its review of the entries audit, and it has been passed, so things are moving on and forward with the modernization project at Roosevelt High School. And equally important, Placer County Office of Education has reviewed and confirmed our first interim report that Joe presented to us not so long ago. So our budget has been approved by PCOE. And then some really cool stuff. I got 2 letters from the Girl Scouts of America. We have 2 Girl Scout Gold Award winners that I received. Molly Newland from Granite Bay High School, who did Best Buddies Unified Club promoting social inclusion. And then we have Isabella Richards from West Park High School, who did Bella's Bat Books, creating children's books to help the declining population of bats and kind of changing the stereotype on bats. So 2 unique projects, but anybody who knows anything about Boys and Girl Scouts, getting these awards is a very lengthy task and it takes a lot of commitment. So congratulations to both Isabella and Molly. And then last but not least, we received a proclamation of appreciation from the Chief Executive Officer and President, Dr. Nguyen from the Avid Center for our board, and I'll pass this down. But it's just to thank you for your support of Avid. We know we have a significant Avid program at Roosevelt High School, and the Avid Center just wanted to express their appreciation to the trustees for your support of that program, and I'll send this down for you to review. And that is it.
And then, were there any committees? No committees met, okay. And then 5.6, the RSEA report with Natalie, our favorite.
Your favorite? Okay.
You're so energetic.
I won't be.
Oh,
Tonight. It's a very busy time of the year. I want to say first off, thank you again. We worked with fixing some communication, and I appreciate you just taking a minute to touch base. Keep us informed as we move forward. I know in February we start talking about like planning for next year, and with the movement, it's just really nice to know what's going on and kind of just being there to support, because so much of our finances go to employing people, and so people have feelings, and I can hear a lot about them, or their feelings, I should say. But with that, with those thank yous, I'm looking forward to moving into the negotiation seasons coming up soon. Buzz, I know other school districts kind of regret it, but I actually look forward to it because Brad buys us dinner all the time, but actually, that's not true. But what I would appreciate is as we go into the seasons of changes and kind of planning for next year, is too often, as teachers we come in, we always hear this complaint. And I wanted to just reconnect that we see it from a different angle. You guys see, as the board members, see things at one angle, then you have our district offices at another angle, and then we bring literally inside the classroom another angle. And our heart and soul is for what's best for students. So even though we might always agree, because you guys see things differently than we do, we're in it for the best for them. Also, one of the biggest things that we're looking forward to is, you know, for a project for mine, is to embrace the new credit recovery classes. I know we're kind of stepping away from ingenuity and making it a better system that we can embrace within to really love up our students. And I'm working with Amy Black to kind of move forward, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you again for the communication, give you a little insight where we're at, and Brad, you're going to pay that.
all right. Was there anything else with public comment form that needed to send them down? No? Okay. So we are at exactly 9, which means that all 9 speakers will have 3 minutes each. So I'll call the first meeting, and then the second person will kind of be on deck to be next. So first up, we have Bernadette, and then second up, Caitlin.
Good evening. My name is Bernadette Kramer, and I am the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program Coordinator at Granby High School, and I also teach English there. I'm here again this evening because I know that we have new board members, and I'd like to help you understand how IB fits into the youth and family and into the district's vision. Goal 2 of the district's 24-25 LCAP is to significantly reduce and ultimately eliminate the achievement gap among specific student groups, promoting educational opportunities for all students. We're successfully addressing this goal via our co-seated CP English, IB Language and Literature HL courses. Thank you, Rob. You saved me every time I don't know how to do it. Thank you. That took 7 seconds. Okay, the board approved this co-seating pilot via resolution in May 23. As a result of that board action, all juniors and seniors enrolled in IB and CP English are in the same classroom receiving the same instruction, and all are being prepared for success in IB assessments. Here's some data of which you might not be aware. 179 students chose to have IB Language and Literature HL in their transcript last year. 163 of those students entered the year as CP English juniors, but they requested the transcript change to IB when they felt encouraged they could meet the rigor required. Of those IB juniors, 72% did just as we hoped. After being exposed to a challenging curriculum through Language and Lit, they chose to enroll in an advanced and weighted course for senior English. Moreover, of the 134 students who remained on the CP English 11 transcript last year, 19% of those also enrolled in DE, AP, or IB this year. The demographic data is roughly the same as our school-wide data, except that there's a larger representation of Hispanic students and a larger amount of students with free and reduced lunch in IB. Last year, before the co-seated English pilot took effect, 12 students took IB exams in Language and Lit. This year, 39 students will take IB exams. That's a 325% increase in students challenging themselves for the IB assessments. When we were approved by the board in '23, we talked about 11 advantages to the co-pilot. Last month, I talked about the opportunity for students to easily change transcripts from CP to IB when they see themselves as the type of student who can meet the challenge of a rigorous course. This time, I'd like to talk briefly about the fact that the co-studying classroom promotes and supports increasing rigor for all students in a scaffolded environment. We're able to support all students by doing the following: setting high expectations with clear learning goals, using rubrics with consistent language and for mark bands, providing exemplars of high quality work, providing sentence stems and graphic organizers, using guided reading strategies like annotation and chunking text, using Socratic seminars to promote deep discussions, moving from teacher-led to collaborative practice to independent work, and providing descriptive feedback to help students revise and improve, and more. I think you can see from this that students are receiving the support necessary to do well in our co-seated course, and the grade data I shared with you last month certainly bears that out. This helps the school board and the district reach their goals, and is an exciting change because of the opportunities it affords all students. In fact, there are some students, a parent, and an English teacher here this evening to share more with you about that, and I have a copy of my remarks with the data I referenced from tonight and from last time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Michaela Morrison, and after that is Tanisha.
All right, let me make sure my mic is working too. I gotta save myself. All right, hello, good evening. My name is Michaela Morrison. I teach at Oakmont High School, and I'm also the mock trial teacher coach. I actually wanted to just brag about our students for a little bit because for the last 2 years, I have been the mock trial teacher coach for 3 years, and then the previous 2 years we've actually made it to states, and you guys have supported them in actually being able to go there. So because I have 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm going to read what a student wrote instead of what I would say because she was sick and wasn't able to make it here. Okay, so this is from Kate. No, I am not a Oakmont junior. So mock trial has been an integral part of my high school experience. I am now a junior at Oakmont High School. I joined the mock trial team when I was a freshman. At that time, I wanted to get more public speaking experience. Next year, I'm going to be taking over as the president of this club after the current president and my friend, Tanisha, graduates. During my first 2 years, Oakmont won the county competition and we went to the state finals. It was with your support as a board that allowed us to do this. I would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to go to the state finals for the first 2 years. While we made it to the second place in Placer County this year, we are determined to make it back to the state finals next year. We work very hard and appreciate all the support that you give us. So truly, our mock trial program wouldn't exist without the students and wouldn't exist without our admin support as well, because there's been many a times that I have bugged Dr. Gouveia and Mr. Bouljon being like, please, please help us with some support. So again, thank you guys. Have a great night.
All right, thank you. So Tanisha, and then after that, we can do Sigrid.
Hi, my name is Tanisha. I am a senior at Oakmont High School, and I've also been doing mock trial for 4 years, and I'm also an IB diploma student, and this is my year 2 for IB diploma. And I want to reiterate what Ms. Morrison was saying about mock trial and how much has been integral to my life as a high school student and also just me in general. Mock trial has taught me so many skills with public speaking. It has increased my confidence. It has given me mentorship skills, and it has taught me so much about law, something like a CTU program can provide, because it's literally the students working with each other and learning about law. And in my freshman year, we did not win. It was soul crushing. Lovely Rockland was winning, but we did not win. And in my sophomore year, when we won, that joy, that euphoria of we won, we did something. We spent, I think, 10 years we were in this losing streak and we had won, purely with student effort. And realizing that, oh no, we didn't have the funds because we weren't there, we weren't expecting it. And having the district supporting us, even though we couldn't fund it ourselves, was instrumental. And when we won in junior year, same thing. We didn't have the funds, we didn't expect it. But being in LA, that's where our state competition is, I did much more than just mock trial. Yes, I went into the courtroom, I went to LA Superior Court courtroom. But I went to college tours. Your funding helped us go to college tours And mock trial itself has been something I've been talking about in all my college applications and all my college interviews. And being president of it has been absolutely an honor. It has been great, it's lovely, and I'm so glad that you've been supporting it. And then another thing I wanted to speak on is IB Diploma, as I know other students and teachers are talking about the IB Diploma program. I've been doing this for the last 2 years, and IB Diploma has quite certainly been the best thing, apart from mock trial, from Oklahoma High School. It is the most rigorous thing I've ever done. Writing 9 research papers is no easy feat. You, in every single class, write a 2,000-word paper. For IB Computer Science that I have, you have to literally seek out a client and write a program for them. It is hard, it is challenging, it is lovely, it is the best thing. I have been more prepared for my college life than I've ever before. I have learned how to pivot, I've learned how to stand on my own 2 feet and say what I want from teachers, and also know that I have a community. With IB Diploma, you're with essentially the same people for 2 years, and you have a backbone, you have a group of people to support. Bigger, smaller than the school, but it's so much bigger. And I want to reiterate how much I appreciate all of you guys for giving us support for mock trial and also for the IB Diploma program. And I'm just excited to see how RJUHSD will perform in these next few years. Thank you.
Next is Ruth. After Ruth, we have Kansas.
Good evening, my name is Ruth Seagraves, and I have had 2 daughters go through Granite Bay High School, and my last one, so kind of like you, the last senior year. It's been a really interesting experience. All of them are high achieving, they all learn in different ways, all different styles of learners. And the first 2 did tons of AP, and it was very intense. I don't help my kids with their homework, but I observe the stress. I observe, that they are striving for excellence. It did feel very traditional. I took AP in high school. It felt very similar to what I went through. Kendra, though, has had a very different experience. She's taken about half AP and half IB. She didn't do the diploma, but what I see in IB, particularly IB Lang and Lynn, is that it seems very innovative. She's very engaged in it. It's not just literature that I think of as literature, like classic books. It's movies, it's social media, it's advertising, it's books, it's articles. So she's calling me over, Mom, watch this movie clip with me. And sometimes it's horror and I can't handle it. And sometimes it's, Crazy Rich Asians, but she's talking through these devices that they're using in filmmaking that I just take for granted. I just watch the movie. She's analyzing it like a film critic. And she's saying, look how they did this. Do you see that movie camera angle there? That's to increase the emotional intensity. And so she's an artist, and she'll talk a little bit about that. But for her, this has been a very engaging experience. It's challenged her intellectually. She has over a 4.0, so she can do whatever she wants to do. But what I appreciated observing from my perspective in the kitchen, doing dishes or whatever while she's doing her homework at the dining room table, is that she's lit up, which I did not see with the other 2. And so I just want to say that I am all for innovating in education, and I am all for supporting our educational experts who are our teachers to guide what we do in our school districts. That they are the expert, and if they need to innovate with someone and bring data to show how it's engaging, I am in full support of that as a parent. So I just wanted to give you my perspective observing over this time period. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up, we have Kendra, and then after Kendra is Parker Ray.
Hi guys, I'm Kendra. That's my mom. She's fantastic. And more than fantastic, she's also really correct in everything she was just saying, and it was so truthful. I do think that taking IB classes, what she was talking about, she noticed how I'm more lit up about what we're working on, what we're studying. And further than that, I'm also kind of engaging with the world in a different way. I think that's one of the main differences between IB and all the other classes I've taken, is that it causes me to change how I see the world outside of the classroom as well. And so I think that's really important. But like my mom mentioned briefly, I'm an artist, and I took IB Language and Literature last year for the first time. First time it was available. And it kind of applies different devices, different concepts, different critical thinking to a bunch of different mediums. So like my mom was saying, it was advertisements, trying to see how different ads are trying to manipulate us, make us think in different ways and things like that. But it also showed me outside of that, that there can be so much meaning in something besides what you see on the surface of it. And I apply that to my own personal artistic life. So that's what led me to the same year create one of my pieces. It's a ceramics piece that I ended up putting so much thought into. Every little thing about the piece has so much meaning, in the same way that I was analyzing the same meaning in different types of media in my IB language and literature class. That piece actually won Best of Show in the California State Fair, along with its artist statement that, oh my gosh, it's like a million words long. I could have submitted that for something great. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that because I was able to drive more meaning in things, like my own art, I was then given the confidence to actually decide that I'm going to go study sculpture in Barcelona for a year after this. So I'm actually really excited about that. And I think it all kind of started with that level of awareness and critical thinking that is really well encapsulated in IB Language Lit. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Kendra. We have Parker, and then after Parker is Robert.
Hi, my name is Parker Rennie, and I'm a junior at Granite Bay High School. And I want to touch base on one of my favorite things from teaching IB Language Lit last semester. One of my favorite things about the class was learning how to take any unit of study, such as The Great Gatsby or studying Maya Angelou poems, and connect it to a larger global context. This skill has completely changed the way I approach learning, allowing me to see what we are studying in class is connected to real-world issues and movements. I have never thought this way before. This is the only class that I have taken that has incorporated this into our learning. For example, in my individual oral assignment, I have explored how women have historically had to stand up for themselves to challenge long-held cultural standards put onto them. I examined how across different societies women have fought for their rights, whether it's through the suffrage movement or contemporary feminist activism. By applying the skills we learned in IB Lang Lit, I was able to contextualize these struggles within broader themes of equality, justice, and human rights. This assignment not only bettered my understanding of gender issues, but also showed me how I can connect topics together that I wouldn't have thought to connect before. I truly believe that being able to relate what we learn to the real world, the world around us, is one of the most valuable takeaways from this class. It allowed me to be more aware of the issues that have happened prior in history and that are happening right now in the world around me. Thank you.
Robert, and then after Robert is going to be Sophia.
Hi there. My name is Robert Pritchard. I've been teaching English since 2006 and in the district at Granite Bay High School since 2012. Until last year, my primary focus has been AP Literature with occasional CP classes sprinkled in, and of course teaching. When Bernadette asked me to attend an IB training a few years ago to provide insight from an AP Literature's perspective, I wasn't sure what to expect. However, I was immediately struck by two things. First, the expectations for students in IB LAL are at least as rigorous as those in AP Literature, if not more so. Second, the course's emphasis on non-literary texts and intertextuality arguably makes it even more encompassing of human expression. In fact, the level of analysis required in the IB LAL goes beyond what students are typically asked to do on the AP exam, for example, where comparing poems is pretty much all but disappeared. Now in my second year of teaching the IB co-seated class, three key aspects stand out to me. First, the collaboration that this opportunity has provided at our school site is unique and unparalleled. Because we share a common curriculum and assessments, every student, whether taking IB or CP, receives the near identical access to high quality instruction and evaluation. This collaboration even extends into the 12th grade as HL2 teachers build upon our choices in HL1 and vice versa. Second, the mixed environment of IB and CP students has been an undeniable asset for our school. I've seen firsthand how students, when given the opportunity to experience IB level work in a low stakes way, gain confidence in their ability to succeed in a more rigorous setting. Many students who might never have considered IB have made the leap because they realized they were closer to that level than they had previously surmised. This kind of organic, student-driven access to IB wouldn't be possible in any other format. Third, the IB LAL course challenges educators to incorporate a much wider range of texts. By design, half of the course is focused on non-literary texts, pushing students to engage academically with visual art, drama, and film. More importantly, it teaches them that academic discourse isn't confined to novels and poetry. Critical thinking applies to all forms of human expression. This deepens their analytical skills and prepares them to be more thoughtful, critical consumers of the world, as our previous speakers have shown. Overall, this has been one of the most rewarding teaching experiences of my career. The IB-LAL co-seated model fosters collaboration, it creates new pathways for students, and enriches how we think about and teach literature and language. And I'm very grateful to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Sophia. After Sophia, we have Audrey.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Sophia Ivalska, and I'm a junior and an IB diploma candidate from Granite Bay High School. And I'm very excited to be here today to share with you the incredible benefits of the IB program and specifically how it has shaped my own academic journey. So to start off, one of the biggest advantages I found about the program is that it is truly student-based. The program itself is designed to really encourage deep understanding rather than just memorizing facts. I realize that the focus of the program is not just passing a test at the end of the year, but truly grasping concepts in a way that can be applied both inside and outside of the classroom. Specifically, I would love to talk about my IB English class, which has been one of my favorite classes I've taken through the IB program so far. So the IB focus on critical thinking, literary analysis, and developing a deeper understanding of text has pushed me to think beyond surface level interpretations and encouraged me to instead explore deeper meanings of themes and context and author intent and things like that. At first, I originally thought that The Great Gatsby, which was one of our class novels, was going to be boring because I heard all kinds of rumors about it. But I actually ended up really loving the story and felt as though I truly understood the meaning behind the plot and the characters through the support of the IB curriculum. Even though I must admit that the coursework in the IB is quite rigorous and arguably even at times more challenging than some of the AP classes I've taken, I strongly believe that the pacing of the curriculum itself is what makes it very manageable and allows students to have a very balanced workload. The structure and all the resources available really helps to ensure that students can keep up without feeling very overwhelmed or like they're too behind. It's a program that values the idea of quality over quantity and encourages students to go beyond surface level knowledge while maintaining a good and manageable pace. Overall, I cannot stress enough on how much the IB program has provided me with invaluable academic tools that will definitely benefit me in college and beyond. It's truly a program that encourages students to think critically, understand deeply, and express themselves in a unique and diverse manner. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Okay, thank you. Audrey, and then last for the night is Camden.
Hello, my name is Audrey Bayman. I'm also here to talk about the IB program here at Granite Bay High School, specifically IB English and Literature. So a little bit of background. My junior year, I took AP Language, yes. And then my senior year, I decided to pivot, and I wanted to take IB Literature. And the reason I did that is because I've been thoroughly involved in the humanities at school. I was really excited when we shouted out the Granite Bay today because I texted my friend who wrote that article, and she was like, oh my gosh. And I was also involved in Mr. Pritchard's speech and debate program for 4 years, so I've always been, involved with the deep thinkers at school. So I decided to pivot to IB Literature my senior year because I recognized that the AP language class I had to take my junior year was rather rigid and didn't allow for creative thought the way that I wanted in my humanities courses. So I'll just describe to you a real conversation I had with my friend after we were listening to one of Martin Luther King's speeches in our IB class. My friend was a CE English student who had decided after a few weeks in the class to actually switch to IB Literature because she realized that she was more engaged than she had ever been in an English class. And she had never had the opportunity to be around deep thinkers because she was always kind of shuffled into that, oh, you're a CP English student category. But in this opportunity, she was able to really experience English to its fullest capacity, and almost every day after class, we would actually talk about the things we were looking at. You know, Nike advertisements talking about women's body positivity, something that I never expected to see in an English class, but I was really able to understand the nuances of these advertisements and the things that are in the media we consume every day that we don't even realize. So when we're waiting in the endless line to get our chocolate muffins in between first and second period, we were talking about Martin Luther King's speeches and how we got chills at certain moments of the speeches, and I realized that I had truly never cared about a class as much as I cared about that class, because I was engaged, and I was an engaged learner in a way I'd never been before. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between AP language. Essays are usually very rigid, it's black and white, compare and contrast. But IB literature allows for discussions of identity, culture, creativity, communication, transformation, perspective, and representation. So you get to choose from any of those topics. So just comparing my two experiences in AP language and then IB literature, I just found that I was very engaged, and I was so grateful to have the opportunity to choose between one or the other, because I know some of my STEM friends definitely thrived more when they didn't have to think deeply about a Nike ad, but I did, and I was grateful for that opportunity. So yeah, thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
Great, thank you. And then last we have Landon.
Hello, so my name is Landon from Granite Bay High School, and thank you guys for letting me have this little moment, because I know I kind of ran in a little bit late, just came from soccer practice, but touching on that, I am a student athlete, and I never really believed in my ability to do an AP class because they're very tiring, and I've heard from all my friends that they're up till ungodly hours doing homework. So when I got into CP English 11, I was like, oh, I'll just be taking a regular English class as I have in my past years, because that's just always the student I thought I could be. And I had my teacher start talking about this IB program, and sure enough, I hear my friend across the table talking about it and saying they're part of it, and they're trying to encourage me to do it, and I'm like, I've always, CP's been too easy for me, like, let's see if maybe I can push myself a little bit, because it didn't sound horrible like an AP class. So, sure enough, I signed up to switch to the IB course, and it's about a month in, and I'm realizing I've learned and gained more from this 1 month in my IB class than I have in my past entire English course in every grade that I've taken. And I succeeded too. It wasn't just me like scraping barely by being a student athlete, not being able to keep up with every other kid in the class, but I was excelling in that IB world that we have produced at Granite Bay, and it caused me to think so much more about what I was actually writing and thinking about in these visual pieces like the movies we watched and the literary pieces like The Great Gatsby. And I never realized how deeply some of these pieces could go until I decided to take this IB class, because in CP you only look at the base stuff like Kendra was talking about earlier. And it made me more confident in my writing and my speaking up in front of people. And so when I went into my senior year to take IB, I didn't even question taking CP. That was out of the table. I was taking IB for sure. And I was sitting around my friends who were all CP students as well, and I realized the acceleration you get from taking an IB class. You care so much more about what you're doing and what you're actually learning about than these CP students. Like, and it's nothing against them, like but they could have absolutely done it. And I tried to encourage them, but they had the same thoughts I did, and so it's just, I think everybody should try that, because it opens your eyes so greatly. So I just wanted to share my experience. Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to the consent agenda. We do have one item that we're moving to the next meeting, and one item
I wanted to,
talk louder moving forward and closer.
I wanted to pull 6.10 and 6.15.
6.1 and 6.5.
6.1 and 6.15. Yeah. 6.15, that is correct. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Recker's going to speak to something on 6.7.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar with item 6.9 being dropped and item 6.10 and 6.15 being pulled for separate action.
I'll second.
Okay, and roll call vote.
Yes?
Yes.
Heidi, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Noah? All right, okay, Mr. Beckers.
All right, yeah, so thank you for the approval of the consent agenda. Within that is one of our newest now employees sitting in the audience, Tony Fan, our new Chief Officer of Strategic Communication and Engagement. So it's a long one, it's going to take 2 business cards to get across, but Tony, you can stand. Tony will finish up his next 2 weeks down in the Westminster School District and then making his way up north with his fiancée to join us here March 3rd. So look forward to having him.
Okay, and 6.10 is, or 6.10? Okay.
So on this, I wanted to, first of all, thank each of the sites for completing the comprehensive safe school plan. They take a lot of work, and I could see as I reviewed all of them, as I expressed to Dr. Dobson before, I think safety is very important to not only the students, but the parents in our community. And so I really appreciated really looking through what those plans were, better understanding. And I thought it would be helpful if Dr. Dobson just took a few minutes to briefly explain some of the key areas there that I have sent you, but I can say them again.
Not a problem. So we have actually prepared a quick presentation that would hit on a lot of information about the CSSP and then any other follow-up questions you might have, or anybody else for that matter. We can answer those. And actually Julie is going to give that presentation.
Hello. Nice to see everybody. So hopefully I can clear up some of the questions that you have or to clarify. So thank you for allowing me to have a few moments to share the comprehensive school safety plans. Yes, it is a lot of work and our teams are amazing. Each one of our site teams has a school site safety team that is made up from teachers, administrators, classified staff, parent, community members, so students that review these plans every year and go through those goals. And so with those comprehensive school safety plans, we have the requirements and our purposes of that we have them every year. Then we bring our school sites, approve them, and then we bring them to you guys to take a look at. And we have to get those to the county by March 1st for adoption for the following year, and as we continue to do that. One of our purposes with the comprehensive school safety plan over the last 2 years, as I've taken over this position, is to really get our comprehensive school safety plans into more of a living document, as I kind of explained in the summary, is the fact that this is a tool for us to continue to get better, develop more strategies, making sure that we're following through with training, making sure that we have those action and our emergency plans to make sure that we're in response to different incidents that are happening on our campuses or even in our community. We also use them to strengthen our partnerships with our law enforcement agencies, as Mr. Constant mentioned before. We cross 3 jurisdictions, so those relationships and those partnerships are critical for us to make sure that we can work cohesively with both our law enforcement partners and our fire partners. So those are the big pieces of that. Also, developing strategies that we're looking at behaviors and being able to support and change behaviors that are putting students at risk or safety at risk, and preventing them to escalating into target violence or anything that might happen as we go through the changes within our society and within our campuses. So that's our big purpose around all of those pieces of things. What's included in our school safety plan, Ed Code states that we have all of these elements, and these elements do get updated different years. Last year we had the addition of J, K, and L there that we had to have written responses for tactical response. That is a very general statement because our tactical plans and things like that are actually kept with our law enforcement partners. We don't keep that on, because these are all public documents, we don't keep that out for the public to review. K, we did that with a threat response as we developed our threat assessment teams, as we refer to as BTAM, BTAM, is Behavior Threat Assessment and Management, and we have lifted that up within our district over the last several years, and leading the county and implementing that with fidelity to make sure that we're assessing behaviors of concern and providing interventions for students that may be on that pathway to violence, to making sure that our schools are safer and creating a safer school environment. L was added last year as opioid overdose and prevention, and as Mr. Schultz shared last night, we hosted our third parent safety forum, in which we hosted our parent safety for One Pill Can Kill, and we have provided those assemblies also to our schools over the last several years. This year, M was added as part of the comprehensive school safety plan. Is an instructional continuity plan. Basically, the gist of that, as it was listed in the plan, I believe it's around page 12 within the plan, is the fact that we as a district have a process to communicate to families that if there is some kind of emergency event that happened on a campus, like an example, LA schools are in the middle of trying to recover from 6 schools that were completely destroyed in fires and 12 schools that were at least partially destroyed in fires, that they have an instructional continuity plan, meaning that we have a plan to get our kids back on ground to continue learning within our environment. And so this was part that was adopted this year. Original requirement date was to have that up and posted by March 1st of 2025. We just received in January, because the state had not given us guidance on what all was supposed to be included in that. It has been extended now to July of 2025 that we have that. So we do have a small alert in our statement of how that would be addressed, and the fact that we would have that would be a decision that would be made by our executive cabinet and our board of how we move forward, and that would be communicated and how it would be communicated to our families. So we have that first step taken care of, but the logistics of that have now been put to July 25 to be able to have that is required to be posted on our website so that it's accessible by all of our families. So those are some new pieces as we went through that that's required in there. As I started out with our purpose, of course, our safety teams. The biggest part of our comprehensive school safety plans over the last couple of years, if you looked at each one of them and read each one of them, they mirror each other. The only thing that is unique to the schools are their goals that they look at every year and their action plans on how that goes. So our goal of that, as we align them over the last several years, is to make sure that we're aligning drills. So every month our schools have drills, how we do practices and procedures within those drills, how we respond through Catapult EMS, which is our emergency services communication app that we use to alert our staff and even our students if there is an action alert on our campus, if we have to evacuate, secure, lockdown. Just had a hold this week. So that is all in alignment. We use the standard response protocol that is expected throughout our schools, and we adopted that about 2 years ago, to where every school uses the same language, same actions. So no matter where you were at in this district, you will know how to respond in the event of an emergency and what those expectations are. That also allows our staff to be cross-trained in how to react on a campus, to be able to go and help another campus if something goes on, that we can cross-train that. So, with that response on our standard response pieces. The other pieces of our goals always relate to building our practices and procedures. One of the big focuses over the last couple of years has been lifting our behavior threat assessment and management teams training, capacity, and building those things, along with also doing vulnerability assessments on our campuses, which vulnerability assessments are looking at what are the places on our campus that may be breaches of security that we may need to improve maintenance-wise. So more of those physical pieces of security versus the psychological safety piece that we're addressing with our climate and culture and our practices of drills and our behavior threat assessment and all of those things that are keeping that balance for that comprehensive school safety. Updates for our template really focused around making sure that our language was updated to match the I Love You Guys organization that we adopted for the standard response protocol of using the words of hold, secure, shelter, lockdown, or evacuate for our actions. So we have a student here, she's been through drills and knows all of those things, so if she was at another campus, she would know exactly what to do. There wouldn't be different language, there would be no confusion of what that directive would be to continue to ensure her safety on campus. We also condensed some sections to clean up any repetition of ed code that was originally in the plan and the template to make that more, like I said, more accessible and also easier to read, and also to kind of build that more into, let's reference this and make sure that it's more of a living document on how we interact with it. We also updated emergency response procedures that align with our national school safety and homeland security. Some examples were that we changed protocols with how we respond to like a bomb threat. It used to be that you got a bomb threat, you immediately evacuated. There's research that has been done over the last decade that when we do that, you should actually be holding where you were at, secure the perimeter, make sure that the outside spaces are safe to send people, and then when we secure that piece, then we evacuate. But we don't send people out into danger when we know they're right there when they're unsafe. As well as our behavioral threat assessment and management practices and procedures that we updated within that. And then the safety plan review and evaluation process and amendment procedures was cleaned up to be very clear of how we do that, how if a parent has a concern maybe for access for their student with disabilities, they can bring that to the principal, then that is reviewed by the school site safety team so that they can take a look at it and then maybe amend it that way, and then it is a living document that can be amended during that year, and it doesn't have to stay that way for that long period of time. So those are the key updates for that template. Of course, we're always looking to improve, right? So our biggest piece is that we have really pushed with the accountability practices when we're conducting drills, our staff's use of Catapult EMS with communication, accounting for students, pieces like that to where they're more fluent and familiar with using the app and the process. That is how we communicate in an emergency. We're not going to pick up the phone and call you. We're not going to send you a separate email. We're not going to get over the loudspeaker. We are going to communicate through this one point only. It creates a more effective and efficient way to be able to make sure that we're communicating to everybody and who we're communicating in the event of an emergency. Aligning our reunification processes has been a focus this year as we continue to build processes for if we had to do an offsite one, we do have an MOU with the grounds. And being able to make sure that people understand that it's the same across the board. So again, talking about the cross-training of staff. If something happens at one school, we can pull staff from another school to help with the reunification process, and there's not a lot of issues with that, as well as having a district level team to do that. Our parent safety forums, as we mentioned last night, that's something that has become, now this is the second year of doing that as a quarterly session to enhance our outreach and our parent engagement when it comes to safety practices. Nobody wants to talk about safety. It's never a comfortable conversation. It's not anybody that's going to go running for that. I always tease Mel that nobody ever wants to see Julie talking to them because you're either talking about safety, discipline, or behavior threat assessment, and those are not those aren't always fun. But it's important, and it's okay to have those uncomfortable conversations, and having those uncomfortable conversations makes us better as a district and a school to make sure that we're taking care of kids and making sure that our campuses are safe. So adding self-reporting for our students on Catapult EMS has just been added, and the fact that they can account for themselves if they haven't yet been accounted for in the event of an emergency. The example is if a student went to go to the bathroom, they're in the bathroom, all of a sudden you go into a lockdown, they can then tell somebody where they're at. And so we went to that piece. Again, collaboration with our law enforcement partners, and then really enhancing our fidelity of our behavior threat assessment management practices and our training and going that for as a regular practice and supported district-wide and through you guys as a board and our cabinet. So that's it. That's in a wrap. And that's we all base that, and I have our logo in there of a culture of care. That's how we wrap it all up. I mean, we work, and everything that we do through certain services and safety lives around these 6 pillars and 6 elements of our culture of care to make sure that we are doing what's best to make sure that we can enhance the safety of our students and their feeling of safety. So keeping that balance across the board.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that. Like I said, I feel like it's important for us to hear it and know that I really appreciated hearing the alignment that's happening across the campuses. I think that is vital that we have that understanding. And then on the Catapult EMS, is that just an app that everybody has? And so how are students, how are teachers trained on that?
So our teachers and our students are trained, the student self-reporting just started this term, but they were trained at the beginning of this term on how they can self-report. Catapult EMS is an app. It's an app-based emergency management communication skill. It is also how we run through our anonymous reporting. So anytime you see the see something, say something button, I'm sure you've seen on across campuses, the see something, say something, the posters that have the QR code, anything that any of our anonymous reporting also goes through Catapult, which is linked to WeTip. And so they get an incident that's sent to our safety teams. They can review that incident, and then we can escalate that into a caution or an action alert. Our action alerts fall under that standard response protocol, but it is all web-based. So teachers can respond either via their phone or by their school device. But they receive training from day one, very beginning of the school year. They receive training on Catapult. All of our schools do a safety presentation during one of their staff meeting days in the very beginning of the school year, refresh everybody's memory with Catapult, and we run all of our drills, so they have lots of practice with those. And then they do it again during the second term. So they do all of those emergency procedures also with the students. I'm sure you could probably attest to your lessons that you get.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. As a student, I think we do get texts. I have gotten texts before when we do drills. I find it very helpful. I haven't been in a situation where I was outside during lockdown, but I'm sure if I was a student, I got that. I didn't know there's a drill going on. It is very helpful. And they do the drills. We do it in our second period classes. And I feel safe on campus at all times. So yes, thank you.
What about that one?
I'm just looking here if I had any questions that didn't get answered. And this one I haven't shared with you before, so I hope that, but do you feel that, are you getting the funding that you need to make our sites safe? Is there anything we're lacking in our district that you need funding for, or you need help with from the district? And maybe you can think about that and get back with us. I didn't. That's just something that came to my
Put me
mind.
on the spot.
Yeah,
Let's talk
yeah,
about budget today with Mel. I think one of the conversations we did have is continuing to build our capacity as a district with the different programs that we have taken into. We have one that's prepared training, that's about training for safety, but also just incident command systems. How do we crisis response, things like that. We talked about trying to build our capacity for trainers within that, similar to as we build our capacity with behavior threat assessment. Now we have in-house trainers, myself, Sheila Stein, our master trainers, that we can do our behavior threat assessment training within in-house. We don't have to pay $20,000 to have a consultant come and pay for us. We now have reinvested that, and so now we can do that ongoing and continuing to just make that a priority and continuing to give us time to be able to do that for our staff as we continue to build capacity in that way. Your guys' support is always appreciated. As you can see, I love talking about what I can do, and as a, in this role, I really enjoyed the work that I've been able to do and the support that you guys have given me. So I appreciate that. and I appreciated Mr. Constant bringing up the fact of talking with the board supervisor over in Sac County to build that relationship a little bit stronger, so hopefully we can get that accomplished with some funding also. So,
Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. And thank you again to all the sites and the site councils for the work that they've done and their own security.
yeah, our
People
site,
that
I will
have
say
that.
our site safety APs are amazing. They're great. I love our, we do a once a month meeting. It's always really productive. We always walk away with something that we can make better district-wide for us, and we feel, and they're, you know, being supported and being advocated for. So I appreciate them, and their work is amazing. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to voice thank you. I'm throwing this together. It was a great overview. And I know it's, we spoke earlier about how it is quite a challenge to put this together. And the state forces us to do it every year, but I think it's a good exercise, right? We look at what we're doing and how we can improve. So thank you and the full team and all the school sites.
So with that, I will make a motion that we approve item 6.10, the RJUHSD Comprehensive Safe School Plans. Is that right?
I'll second.
So, we'll vote on that one, or all those in favor? Aye. Yes,
Aye.
okay. And then now we'll take 6.15 separately. Okay.
Okay, so this was the approval of the Oakmont High School application for the K-16 SAC Collaborative and SCOE 2.0 dual enrollment pathway. And I just thought it would be helpful, I know sometimes there's been questions about grants, and so I was hoping that Dr. Karros could just give us a little, it doesn't need to be long, but an overview of what's the grant, who will it benefit, and what obligations will we have, those kinds of things. And I can ask any questions individually.
Sure. Thank you, Trustee Colvin. So this is an opportunity for us to scale dual enrollment opportunities, particularly at one of our Title I schools with large unduplicated student body counts. So specifically, we've got Principal Bojan in the audience, whom we collaborated with, and then as well as Dr. Govea in the audience, who's leading our dual enrollment efforts for our school district. And I think, as you all know, dual enrollment is a huge initiative of the state of California and really nationally to affording our students the opportunity to take college courses in the high school buildings and high school spaces. And Roosevelt Joint has really done a tremendous job with really serving as a role model, as a 912 school district role model for the state of California. Much thanks to Superintendent Becker and my predecessor, Dr. Moore, who has really pushed the boundaries for offering dual enrollment for our students through the collaboration of Billy Duncan and his team at Sierra College. So this grant really seeks the school districts who serve high unduplicated student counts. Unduplicated is defined as high English learners, high counts of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, otherwise known as Title I population, and high foster youth counts. And specifically, it's looking for schools with those high student body population who may not necessarily see themselves as college-going students. And then also is in a school district with a strong partnership with this community college. And we here in Placer are blessed because we have perhaps, I would say Superintendent Becker would say this, perhaps the strongest partnership in the state of California with its community college and Sierra College. And so in conferring with Principal Bojan, we felt this was a great opportunity for Oakmont with its growing dual enrollment programs over at Oakmont, with our want to continue to support Oakmont to being an attractive, viable option for our families, to pursuing this 1 year, $95,000 opportunity, to building a release period in a dual enrollment coordinator, which wouldn't be a hiring of a new position per se, but Mark Bojan and his team would identify whom that person would be to being released for one period, both terms, fall and spring, to really engaging our families, to knowing what dual enrollment is, to understanding the dual enrollment courses. But more importantly, all students would benefit should we be a recipient of this award. Because dual enrollment, as you know, is offered to all students in our school district. But this provides for Oakmont the resources and time to really supporting our families with those educational components that I think we all think we can do a better job with. Advertising, educating, explaining, counseling sessions in the evenings, family nights, all of that good stuff.
Thank you. And are there any particular obligations that the district would have or Oakmont would have to get these funds, or is it pretty straight up that we're meeting these certain criteria for these students?
Yeah, the obligation, should we be awarded the grant, is to do what we say we would do in the grant. So Principal Lejeune would need to make sure that he does appoint a dual enrollment coordinator and follow through with those family and community engagement activities to educating his community about what dual enrollment opportunities exist at Oakmont High School. And then of course I want to make sure I say this as well as dual enrollment generally, but specifically this grant is intended to target the unduplicated students. So Principal Lejeune and his staff would absolutely need to make sure that they target English learners, Title I populations or families, as well as foster youth.
Thank you. That's all my questions. Any other questions? Motion? I'll make a motion to approve 6.15, and I'm not going to read the whole title of it because it's super long. The approval of that.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you for all your help with that, and we will move on to our action matters, 7.1, our CSBA delegate assembly election. So I think this is pretty straightforward, where we are to appoint 2 people to the vacancies that are currently open on the CSBA delegate assembly ballot. We have 3 candidates with 2 open seats. What I'm not sure about is if they're paper or. I'll do it.
Yeah, Kim has the ballot, so you just need to motion, discuss which candidates you want, approve, and so we'll be sending 2 of those 3 names, so the board just needs to decide
Okay.
which 2 we're going to send forward.
So I have some thoughts. Sorry.
No.
I know that those who have applied for this on the ballot, 2 are from Roseville City School District and one's from Placer Union High School District. These are representatives on the delegate assembly from our area. I think, for starters, I think it'd be good to have some diversification here from the school districts, particularly, that we are a high school district, having a high school district representative on that board. So I think Jessica Spade's the only one from there. Of the 2, Roseville City, I know Lisa Fong very, over the years, she's been a very strong board member, balanced board member, has been serving on the delegate assemblies for a number of years. I know I'm new to the board, but I know California School Board Association well. They do so many great services for our school boards throughout the state, from not just their policies that they help us with, but their Education Legal Alliance, going out on statewide issues that in fact impact all of our students. So I think it's important to have someone who really supports CSBA on that board, on that assembly, but also represents our area well, and I think Elisa would.
I think my suggestion was we all probably have 2 names, and I wonder if we just share the 2 names and see what comes out top, would be my suggestion.
That's a good idea.
Well, you have mine, I guess, Lisa Fong and Jessica Spade.
Just work our way down, I guess.
Mine was Jessica Spade and Jonathan Zackerson.
I would go Jessica Spade, and I'll say Jonathan. I'm very open on this.
I am also open. open, I know all three, and I think all three of them would be great. I really like Trustee Schutz's comments about Jessica Spade, so I'll say Jessica Spade and Elisa Fong, so it gets down to UP.
All right, well, I'll join the choir on Jessica, so that makes that easy. Well, the other two I know both. I'll say Jonathan.
Okay, tiebreaker repeat. So, do we have a motion?
Oh, so I guess since we have the vote, I'll make a motion for Jessica and John.
I'll second.
And all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Opposed?
Nay.
Can I go on this? Yes, absolutely. I guess. Okay, so officially then a 4-1 vote in our one student board member. I think it still counts, it's not official voting. I'll always ask your no.
Yes.
All right, then moving on to 7.2, we have Mr. Basham to present that one tonight.
Yes, the purpose of this item is to consider resolution number 2501, authorizing the district to reduce or eliminate particular kinds of certificated services for the 2025-26 school year. In short, there's no longer adequate resources to fund the following temporary grant-funded positions, certificated positions, specifically a 1.0 FTE professional learning specialist, 1.0 FTE site-based instructional coach, and a 1.0 FTE CTE and dual enrollment specialist position. Staff recommends the board approve resolution 2501, reduction or elimination of particular kinds of services, and that the affected employees be given notice of this decision in accordance with Education Code 44949 and 44955.
Questions?
Just to clarify, will any of these people lose a job within the district?
No, we've already, we've been in contact with RSCA, so they've been aware of the layoff proposal, as well as the supervisors for each of those employees that may be affected have had a preliminary conversation with them. We will work between now and the end of the school year to actually give them a reassignment. They'll fill a vacancy within the school district, so no one in the district will lose a position because of these layoffs. And I will work with the principals to make sure that these particular folks will get placed prior to any other transfers or new hires. So the short answer is no, no one is losing a position in the district, just shifting positions.
And just so, I mean, sometimes when people hear layoffs, they think, oh no, is there a problem? The only issue is it was a grant-funded position, and now that grant funding has ended.
Correct. These were all grant-funded positions. The employees, when they were placed in those positions, knew that it was temporary funding and a temporary position, and that there was always this chance, and that they would be revisited on an annual basis. And so it shouldn't be a surprise. Yes, it is a disappointment, but we'll work to make sure we find a softest landing spot that we can and try to work with them to find a place if they want to work out.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
It's a resolution.
Ooh, so roll call.
Roll call.
Okay, Pete?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. Heidi, yes.
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Bella?
Yes.
All right, 5-0 approved. And now we'll move on to section D, which is our staff reports and informational items. And first, we have a first reading for some core textbooks.
Yes, our Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction, Amy Black, will just give you some background on this.
Hi
Good evening. So I'm bringing the first reading of 3 IB textbooks. Just a little bit of background. Our membership and commitment to the IB programs requires that we stay current on any changes to the course or materials. And so these 3 particular courses, IB Physics, IB Sports, Exercise and Health, and IB Environmental Systems and Societies, all have had a course change, which thus impacts their tests. So we are required to ensure that we provide the most recent material as well as access to the updated course to all of our IB students. So tonight is to open up the first reading. It's just informational item only, and to also notify the public that the textbooks are all available for viewing in our front office, at the district office. Members of the board and public and community are welcome to look at the materials, review them, provide input, and then when I bring it back in a month to our next board meeting for second reading and board review and approval, I'll also bring if there's any input from the community, but it's just information that you know that open for viewing. Any questions?
Enrollment projections and planning discussion. Mr. Landon.
Should I get this ready? Okay, so each year we hire the services of a demographer. As I mentioned in our last budget presentation, enrollment is such a key part of what we do. It is how many people we hire, how much money we receive, and it just leads to a lot of things in our district. So it's really important that we keep an eye on where our enrollment is, where it's heading, and help us in that decision making. So tonight I'm going to go over some of the most recent data we have from our demographer, go over some of the challenges, there is some good news and some challenges we're going to be facing here in the near term. So with that, I just wanted to first show is there are current attendance boundaries. What I highlighted here in yellow, those are actually some of the big new developments we have out in the northwest side of our district. So you see in Placer 1, Amarusa Ranch, as well as Creekview and some of these other areas, we've got quite a bit of units that are projected to come in our district. One that has happened over a number of years and led to kind of an imbalance on the number of students we have in the geography of our district. So the northwest, we're seeing lots and lots of growth, a lot of people moving into the area, people with families and students we have to support, and it leads to some challenges we're going to talk about tonight about how we best address our students and make sure we have a place for them. So just wanted to show that. That's our current attendance boundaries. You'll notice the blue square that's in between the pink and orange, that was original HP property that years ago there were no housing there, but since then, after HP bought that property, they've sold parts of it, and there's been some development. It's a pretty medium to high density housing. Campus Oaks is the majority of that housing. But that's kind of one oddity I just want to point out, because those are all going to Oakmont, so we provide transportation, and it's the one area of our boundaries that's non-contiguous. And so we've looked at that in the past. But that's our attendance boundaries. I also put in the packet, just for the board's reference, is our partner districts, both Eureka, Dry Creek, and Roseville City. What you'll notice is that the Eureka district 100% matches the Granite Bay High School attendance boundary. Now, Dry Creek and Roseville City, they kind of cross over multiple schools. So with those school districts, their students would go to a number of different schools in our district. For instance, Dry Creek has all of our Antelope students, but also a number of Oakmont students, Wood Creek students, and a little bit of Roseville students, I believe. So it developed some challenges, but I just wanted to put that up because that's part of the whole puzzle that is our attendance boundaries. All right, so this is the demographic numbers. One key point to mention is that when our demographer looks at our attendance, our enrollment, they're looking at resident students. That's a big distinction because what happens is we have a lot of intra-district transfers. So we have students that come from outside our attendance that come through inter-district transfer, as well as the number of students who transfer within our district. Those are the intra-district transfers. So when you look at the high school enrollment, like for instance, Antelope High School, 1442, their actual enrollment is about 1830 because they draw a lot of students, particularly from Center Unified District, which is to their southwest. And so what we do after we get these projections is we take those and take our existing inter-district transfer patterns, and we use those to come up with our enrollment projections if those patterns were to continue. One other item I'll point out, and this is what the demographer, this is their expertise, is they count birth rates. They look at movement patterns, where people are coming and going. They count percentages of kids, and so it's kind of funny when you see, 4.7 children. What's a 0.7 children? But they're go into all the numbers. One point, just so you can kind of get an idea of some of the numbers. If you look at the very top of the bottom one where it says transitional kindergarten, you'll see in 24-25 there's 1,036 kids in our district boundaries currently in transitional kindergarten. When you go to 25-26, you'll look at a pretty big increase from 1,036 to kindergarten in 1996. Well, that makes sense because a lot of parents or a lot of families may not be eligible for transition kindergarten, but then they do become eligible for kindergarten. We have families who decide to continue at their child care and not use transitional kindergarten. So that's where you see a big jump. What I'll also point out is that you'll see growth throughout the grades, but you'll see another big jump from 8th grade to 9th grade. And a lot of that is because there are a number of parents and families that choose to have their kids homeschooled or go to charter schools, and they typically would come to a comprehensive high school. And so we usually see a jump from 8th grade to 9th grade. And so there's a bit of an art and science to this that the demographer uses in historical trends. But we factor all that in to try to get to our enrollment projections. So with that, I'm going to fast forward one more slide to our enrollment projections that we currently have with the intra and inter-district transfer impacts. That's considering we don't make any big changes to our inter-district transfers. So one thing I'll point out is Adelante, Independence, as well as the other special ed on the bottom. All three of those, other special ed, that's a lot of our non-public school students, those don't have an attendance boundary. So they're really difficult to determine what their enrollment is going to be. So we typically kind of roll them forward until we know anything different. Usually in March, we start getting a better idea of enrollment. So you'll see on Adelante, Independence, and other special ed, I pretty much just keep them flat going forward for now until we have more information. So going through a couple of the sites, the first one I'll just point out is Antelope High School. Antelope High School is actually looking to have some growth that we're keeping an eye on because we don't really have capacity for too much more growth at Antelope High School. And so it's one item where we're looking with transfers. Remember that prior slide where we have a lot of inter-district transfers into Antelope? So we are starting to close Antelope High School to inter-district transfers because we don't necessarily have the capacity or don't think we'll have capacity for all those transfers coming in. So that's a current issue that we're looking at, keeping an eye on, and it's a potential future decision that this board and academy may have to make of, do we try to expand the capacity of Antelope? There's not a whole lot of space to do that, but there may be some space for a few additional portables. There's a cost to that, and there's some pros and cons to whether we want to do that for inter-district transfers when we do currently have the capacity to meet all of our students at Antelope High School, given our current attendance boundaries. The next two sites I'll just mention because they have a pretty steady pattern and not too much of a growth or decline, and that's Granite Bay and Wood Creek. If you look at both those sites, they have a little bit of growth, a little up and down. They tend to be around that 2,000 number, and so we've seen those numbers fluctuate up and down, but generally expect them to stay around that 2,000 number. You go out way down the line, okay, those numbers are starting to look higher. I put a lot less interest in the later years because I know a lot can happen in 10 years, and so I'm really looking at those first couple of years, and both those schools seem to be pretty steady. The other two schools, and I think this is kind of the best news that I see from this report, is that Oakmont and Roseville. We've had a lot of concern about those two schools and the decline we've seen. And the good news I see is I think we've gone through the worst of it with both those schools. And when you look over time, given our current attendance boundaries, I believe those enrollments are starting to tick upward. And so some of that is additional housing that's happening in Oakmont and Roseville. People are projected to move in. They've kind of gone through their decline. And so we're cautiously optimistic. We're going to continue to keep an eye on those schools, but we think that we're going to see over time a growth in their enrollment. So last one I want to mention, it was what I believe is the biggest challenge facing our district is going to be West Park High School. As you look at West Park numbers, they're currently the biggest school in our district at 2,081. They're also the largest school I heard recently in Placer County, just by a little bit. Currently, and then you look at 25-26, they're projected to grow about 300 students. And then you go down the line, it starts getting at a very high amount that we don't have the capacity for. So there's some challenges that we're going to have to look into how to resolve that. So we at Cabinet have been looking at lots of different potential options, but that's going to be forefront on the board and us to determine how we're going to address that and some of the issues that we have to look at. So going through some of the items that I think we're going to need to start discussing, I kind of separated them into short-term and long-term. It's just my opinion and some of the things we've talked about. Facility projects. As the board knows, when you want to build a new facility, it takes multiple years to get there. So you have to have design phase, you have to get approval through DSA, and construction itself often takes a few years. And so you start backing that out, we probably would need to make some facility decisions pretty soon, particularly in West Park, where there's a need for a theater or a multi-purpose area, as well as potentially additional classrooms. And so that is one of the facility projects we need to decide what we're building, what the budget is, and something we're going to need to decide probably this year what we're going to do there. As well as at Oakmont, that was the next big project. We're undergoing Roseville's project very, very soon, so we're nearing the completion of design and we'll be breaking ground. We also had a project to build a new pool, some classrooms, do some TLC over at Oakmont High School. How does that fit in? How much money do we have for that? So that's a concern. I mentioned earlier Antelope Portables, another possibility. And as you guys know, there's only so much money and so much time. And so those are some of the facility projects that we're going to have to tackle here in the next 3 to 6 months. Some other ideas and potential short-term planning are any short-term, I'm calling them boundary adjustments. The HP property I mentioned, not being contiguous, that's an area that we could potentially look at rezoning to a different school to make it contiguous with the rest of the district. Another item, and I kind of glanced over briefly earlier, is the Placer 1 development. If I go back to here, I'll show you where it is, but it's in that very north part of our district, the yellow box that's being used with the cursor. There's 5,636 units that are coming there. Currently, none of those houses have been built, the permits haven't been pulled. So there's an opportunity to potentially change the zoning of those houses to a school that has capacity. Right now, if all those houses get built and they all go to West Park, it causes us problems with the numbers that we saw earlier. But there's a window for us to potentially consider changing them to a different attendance boundary, which would allow us to buy us more time and address the different issues that we have. So that's something that if the board wanted to make a decision before houses are built, because a lot of times it's a lot easier to sell where you're going to school before you buy a house rather than changing when someone thought they were going to go to West Park and now we're going to say, we're going to take you to a different school. Whereas if we make that decision before they buy a house, it's in the notifications and they're well aware of the school they're attending. So those are some potential short-term planning items. Also, as well as long-term planning. We could do a further attendance boundary. I just mentioned some small, I could call them tweaks or small adjustments. There's the potential of a further study of really looking at attendance boundaries. That's typically a more longer process. You want to get a lot of stakeholder input. And so that's something that we could look at in the long term of how our attendance boundaries look and where we want them to go, as well as what our sites look like, the programming at our sites. That determines what enrollment comes to our site, where we draw from, and so that's something that could have an impact on our enrollment at each of the school sites. So with that, I went through a lot of information. I went through pretty quickly some of the similar short-term decisions that I think we're going to need to talk about. I mentioned the potential boundary changes, any of those short-term ones, but the facility and the funding is another key piece. because what we build at West Park and Oaklawn is gonna depend on what the budget is. And what the budget is gonna depend on how much funding we receive. And we have funding capacity, about $51 million out of the SBID, but there's gonna be some potential, how much money do we access, and there's tax implications to that. So that's just letting you know a little bit about stuff that's to come, but those are things that I think we're gonna have to decide here in the near term. So with that, that concludes the information I wanted to share, but I'm guessing you may have questions. So.
I have just a really quick question.
Sure.
I'm sure these guys have a lot more. But on page 5 are the 5,636 units that are currently in classroom 1 that are unbuilt. Are those homes included in the West Park High projections already?
Yes, they currently are. They are not projected to start. They're not seen in the numbers until about 2026, 2027 is when our demographers looked and talked to developers on when those houses are planned to come. And so over time, when I looked at 2032, 33, the projections are there's going to be about, and obviously it's an estimate, about 500 homes or 500 students that are in that number that are West Park currently. But obviously, if we made a change to a different attendance area, those 500 kids would be somewhere else.
Okay. And then do we know how many students are in that little non-contiguous?
Yeah, it tends to vary around from 50 to 150 students.
We call that Oaklawn Island.
One island. I like that.
That's what, yes. Well, that's just what I heard on the street.
One other thing I wanted to point out, that's a key point that I just want to make sure I forgot to say it. One of the issues we have, and it's a good issue and a bad issue, is when you look at the total number in 24, 25, it's 11,014. When you look at 2032, 33, without any changes, it's 14,016. That's a pretty big growth in a small time period. So we're going to have tough decisions. There's really not very many easy answers to that without adding another school there that we don't have the space or funding for. But that's kind of one of the cruxes of the issue, is going from 11,000 to 14,000. It's just, to me, that's a key thing to kind of know, or even when you're out talking to constituents. And we're at 11,000 students, we're projected to get to 14,000 in the next 8 years. And that's an issue.
I have some questions.
I have comments, not questions.
Okay. Current capacity at West Park is, I think you told me, 2,880 to 3,000?
That's kind of alright. I mean, and you probably, Becky may be cringing if I she's behind me right now.
Well, what would Becky say and what do you say?
Becky may say 2,081. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's one that it's definitely a range, and there's issues all along the way. Like maybe at 2,400, you're starting to run into this issue and that issue, and then as you get further, it becomes a bigger issue. But physically, when you just look at classrooms and teachers fully utilizing all the classrooms, and if she can somehow make the master schedule work, potentially around that 2,800 currently.
And then,
Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very tight at 2,800 with what we currently have.
and I realize there's so many other challenges around that, but
Yeah.
as we're just looking at numbers.
That's just kind of giving you a ballpark.
And then I think you told me that when we complete the next phase, the next building, that's another about 500 students.
Potentially, it depends on what we build,
Okay.
because how many classrooms you have, and so it varies. But to give you an idea, one of those 3-story classroom buildings houses about 500 kids, or 500 kids at full capacity.
So, quick math, we're looking at 3,300-ish? Would you be comfortable enough?
There's just some things to consider about the egress and ingress, the cafeteria, the gym, just things that when you start talking about size, it's not necessarily classrooms that matter, it's the other.
Oh, everything else.
Yeah, but yes, what you said is yes.
There's lots of grace in that.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my head around, we're looking at all these numbers, what can we accommodate And then, so obviously the inter-district transfers they're impacting us, and I know it impacts us in a good way because that's just more money. And when you have, let's see, you showed the number, it was 1,067, I think. No, I can't remember.
Yeah, if you looked at IDT,
Yes.
1,167 is what they estimate is our.
Okay, and those were just the inter-district.
Correct. That actually, I believe that number is the positive of the inter-district in and out.
Okay.
Because we always have a bit of an out and an in. We tend to draw a lot more in than we lose. We tend to get like about 1,400 or 1,500 in, and we lose 300-400.
Okay, and we don't have, and this maybe doesn't matter for this high-level discussion, but I'm sure you have the numbers of how many transfers go in each school. So again, that's where we have a little bit of.
Yeah, and that's another item that I could have put on there that's
Okay.
maybe a long-term or is our transfer policy,
Okay.
both inter and intra.
Okay, I'll stop with questions.
Questions? Someone's with comments?
You ready for me?
I'm ready for you.
All right. So I try not to be a pessimist, but I'm gonna try and be a realist here. You know, we've been talking about the potential of having this discussion about boundaries for quite some time. I think the whole time I've been here. And Joe, can you click to the map of our attendance boundaries? It'll just help as I'm having, rambling through my comments here. There are so many things that we have to take into consideration, and there's some significant challenges of things that we can't make changes to. So when you look at the map and you see how close Oakmont, Granite Bay, and Roseville are, it's very difficult when you have schools that are so close. They probably seem far away back when we didn't have a lot of people, but they're very close. And then we have the challenge in the upper left-hand corner, which would be the northwest corner of our district, where we only have one school sort of for that whole blue and yellowish area there. And as was mentioned, but I don't think emphasized enough, is we don't have the land nor the money to put a second school up there, which is really would be the most correct fix for a situation like this. And we have parents that have been frustrated for years because of some of the attendance requirements we have. You know, if you live in the Blue Island, up there, the Oakmont Island, you have to literally drive by other schools to get to your attendance area. I know I live that because I live right next to, very close to West Park. And for a decade, we drove past Wood Creek and past Roseville, and quite frankly, past Antelope too, that all those schools were closer to my house than Oakmont, but we took our kids to Oakmont. And as you know, our area is challenged with traffic as well, so it's not just our students that are impacted, but we have this traffic situation that is almost incorrigible. We've tried multiple times as a community to make some changes in how we deal with our traffic flow and how we fund our traffic improvements in our bigger community, not just us here. And those haven't gotten anywhere, so there's no relief in sight, at least in the short term for that. But we're one of those contributing factors because we have cars literally going across the entire area in both directions to get our children to school, and oftentimes it's multiple trips because you have a parent going there and back. And then if you're like me, you got a bunch of kids with different schedules, so you're going there, back there, back there, back there, back, and you're dealing with those things. We also have some interesting, I guess I call them illogical, but they're logical boundary issues, because we have two attendance areas that are tied into external things that are outside of our control. We have one where we have Granite Bay attendance that is tied to the external boundary of the Eureka School District at one end of our city in the green, or our region in the green. And then at the West Park area, we have an SFID, which is a School Facilities Improvement District, where prior boards chose to fund one school with local attendance area funding versus district-wide funding. All of our other schools were built with district-wide bonds where the cost of the building, the capital improvements, was borne by all of the people who live in our area, which is about, we know about our students, we know about our voters, but really it's about 195,000 people that live within the boundaries of our school district. It's a really large area, yet we have these areas where we had sort of a community covenant, I guess you might say, where those of us who bought in the SFIT area were told, don't worry, you built this high school and it's going to be tied to the attendance area. So if you live in the SFIT, your kids are going to go there, but if you don't, your kids won't. But now we're looking at a situation where we've promised 4,000 students a place to go where we can't even fit 2,800. And so we're in a situation where we have to do something. And then, of course, we have Antelope, which is a great school, but that has its own unique thing. It's in another county, and prior boards chose to make that attendance area coterminous with the county line. So we have our three ends of our funky little rectangle here that have these boundaries that are tied into externalities, which cause us challenges. And so all that makes these things difficult, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have the discussion. And I will say we went to great lengths when we created the trustee areas, which none of us really wanted to be in trustee areas, but we went to this trustee area concept, and when we drew the maps for the trustee areas, which is that alternative map up there, we were very conscious to make sure that we drew boundaries that were not coterminous with attendance areas. So we didn't have, this is my school, that's your school, that's your school. You know, every one of us has a political boundary in our trustee area that intentionally has multiple attendance areas. And that was made so that everybody up here, past, current, and future, would be thinking about students in multiple schools instead of just their home school. And so all of those things are going to be traumatic when we make changes. And I don't know how many of you lived through changing school boundaries, but in the eyes of many communities, it's like you picked up their house and you moved it to another part of town. Because you have not just the kids that are in school now, and the kids that are getting ready to go in the next couple of years, but you have legacy families because 4 generations went to this school, and now when you change that boundary, generation 5 is not going to go to that school, because we have some schools that have been around a long time, Oakmont and Roseville. So I say all that to say, this is going to be a mess. It's going to be emotional, and it's going to be difficult, but it's something we need to do, and I think we can learn some lessons from the challenges that we had to a small extent, but other school districts had to a large extent when they just simply tried to create the political boundaries of trustee areas, and how the self-interest and the perceived, I represent this group interest, get in the way of logical decision making. And I know we'd all like to say that we won't do that, but we've seen time and time again, it's human nature, we can't help but do that. So my encouragement to the board and to the cabinet and to the community is where you really think about how we can approach this, not piecemeal, although I'm not opposed to doing something with Campus Oaks right now to alleviate a problem for a small number of people that I think we can absorb. But as we go forward, I think we need to do this in a comprehensive way that truly engages the community. And personally, I would like to see it community driven. I would like to see it almost as if it were like an independent redistricting commission where we minimize the influence that those of us who have significant ties, either culturally, historically, electorally, or our legacy families that went to different places, that we really have the community drive this decision making. So it's just some food for thought. I know we're not making a decision today, but those are the things I think that are important to me. I think it's going to be important to our community, because oftentimes when you have something that changes, makes changes that people aren't happy with, they're less unhappy if they're part of the process. Because when they're part of the process, they understand the decision making exclude them, there's also a cathartic process that happens that makes it easier. It's a big challenge. So just stuff for all of you to think about, on both sides, staff and the board, because this is going to be a fun, emotional roller coaster. Thanks.
So I'd like to make a comment, and I'm not trying to shy away from hard conversations or discussions, but, and I've said this to multiple people, I feel like we need to make sure we're solving the right problem before we launch into a big committee and community outreach and big discussions, because, and I feel like you're leaning towards, oh, we need to address these boundaries. But when I look at the numbers for our current, it was on page 4, without transfers, if you look at those numbers, you have Granite Bay High School and Wood Creek running lower than Roseville and Oakmont. And so if you just said, oh, we need to change the boundaries to fix our enrollment problems, if you look at those numbers, now we're making Granite Bay's footprint bigger and we're making Wood Creek's footprint bigger to try to balance somehow. But when you look at the numbers, when you include the transfers, it's a totally opposite problem. So I'm afraid to go down that road that we need to change boundaries, because it's not really a boundary problem. It's bigger than that. Or actually maybe it's not a boundary problem. We get transfers in, and they get to go, well, intra and inter, and then suddenly we have all these numbers we're trying to fix. So either we say no more transfers, and now we have a boundary problem, or do you follow what I'm saying? So I'm hesitant to go down this terrible path of anger, and you're affecting my home prices and the expectation of going this place, when in reality we can maybe just do a few tweaks. And so
I agree with you almost 100%.
Okay.
If West Park wasn't part of the discussion.
Okay.
Because that's that number just kind of throws everything else
Okay,
off.
so when I say let's make sure we're solving the right problem, we need to solve the West Park problem. And that's what I think maybe the conversation is. We have a committee that around how do we solve the West Park problem. I think that's a bit focused, that's probably better focused. And that would be my comment.
I agree with all of that. I would say, would it be possible or appropriate to maybe agendize the facilities projects? Because those seem like they have to happen regardless. Right? So we can talk about the budget around the West Park addition, the Oakmont improvement, the Antelope additions, and do that as one meeting. Then I agree. What did you call it? Oakmont Island. And
Placer one.
The
I
Placer
almost feel like that's a conversation that should happen together and not in isolation.
Right. Good. I mean,
because
the
how,
two boundaries.
right, because
the facilities
facilities
as one.
and maybe talk about Placer one and this Oakmont Island. Well, actually, the Oakmont Island is a little bit of a separate issue. Because that's not,
Right.
we're not talking about West Park there, but I realize that is a nuisance. And so if we're talking about bringing community, maybe it's just bringing in that little community and find out what they might want.
I feel like it's gotta be comprehensive though. I feel like if we just take care of Oakmont Island and we kind of piecemeal, then we just tie our hands even more. So then what if we end up deciding, oh, we do need to change boundaries, and then we take Oakmont Island, oh, we put you here, but now we're gonna put you here. So I feel like there needs to be a full plan before we just do little things, and I really don't, it doesn't seem like we can determine facilities projects until we know what our end goal is. What's our end goal at Oakmont? How many people do we want to end up having at Oakmont? How many people do we want to end up having at West Park. So I'd hate to just put money into classrooms without knowing how many we need to house there with a long-term plan.
I guess, so I just feel like the discussion about boundaries doesn't matter at all as long as we're allowing transfers. Because what's the point of spending a year talking about changing boundaries, but everyone can move around anyway. And then you still kind of have the same problem. So that's why I'm hesitant about the boundaries, and trying to figure out an alternative way to solve the problems that we have. And I guess we could talk about whether we allow transfers, you know.
I just have a bit of a concern about waiting on some of these things, you know, given we're going to see some growth quicker, and if you look at some of our short-term planning items, adding another classroom wing at West Park is going to be a while, take a few years to get through that process from go, right? So I guess my concern is, you know, getting into a huge analysis that's comprehensive may delay things, and then now suddenly we're 3 years down the road and we're in a worse pickle. So I wanted to say appreciate Joe and team bringing some of these thoughts forward. It's definitely something to continue discussions around. But you know, I think I'm in favor of bringing at least some things forward that we can, you know, get on quickly.
I have one more. I missed one of my points, and Becky mentioned it, about ingress, egress. We also have to look at what the surrounding area can absorb. I don't know what people were thinking when they made the West specific plan, because we have a high school everyone knew was going to be large, and we have it at the intersection of two-lane roads with no space available to make those roads wider, and it's sited right next to an overcapacity middle school, which is right next to Junction Elementary School. And we have the families from all three schools using the same two-lane street to get in and out every day. And even if I could magically snap my fingers and build 3 more classrooms for Becky, 4,000 people at that school plus staff to get in and out, I don't think there's the roadway infrastructure to even handle that. And I'm torn between incremental approaches and comprehensive approach, because as Bill said and Joe said, Placer 1, those homes, there's tractors working out there. And the time to make a change is before anybody signs their name on an offer on a house, so that those families can know what they're getting themselves into. And the transfers, I think it's important to understand that there's a benefit to transfers as well. We have, not we, but we as a district, not this board, but our predecessors created a system where we have schools that offer different products. And when you have that, those products pull people in, whether it's IB or whether it's AP heavy, or whether it's the culinary arts program, or it's the nursing, I can't remember, the health academy that we have at Oakmont. We have these things that we built with the community's money, saying, you know, give us the money, we're gonna build these great programs, and we're gonna have them accessible to our families. So if we just simply say we're not gonna do transfers, then that causes some issues too, because.
Wasn't saying we should.
Right, no, I know you're not saying that, I'm just saying, all of these things, they're almost impossible to separate, but as Bill said, if we wait to do a comprehensive approach, we're gonna miss the bus. So we gotta figure out how we do this. I'm glad we're having the discussion. I didn't expect to have any decision tonight, but I think we need to be prepared to roll our sleeves up and figure it out, so that we can figure out, is it a little bit of this, is it a little bit of that? How do we put these things together? And I think Joe alluded to it. You can do short-term, keeping in mind the long-term, and you can make long-term decisions based on your incremental decisions. But ultimately, we got to figure out what's the pacing and what's the order we're gonna shuffle these things up in. Because every one of them is gonna make some people happy and some people mad. Some people are gonna cry, some are gonna be tears of joy, and some are gonna be tears of sorrow. We've gotta figure out how we do this and we don't continue to have families feel like they're, we just had this happen to us and now we're having this happen to us, now we're having this happen to us. So as we do it, I really wanna make sure the community is aware that this is one step of a 5-step problem, or whatever we're gonna do, so that we can manage expectations, so that we can manage emotions, and so that we can manage our students properly.
Yeah, so just to add to that, I think I'll have Joe, this is probably going to be a standing agenda item, be it action or informational, probably at least through summer, until some of this clarity happens. I was just telling Joe through his presentation, can you just keep the 5 of you in the center lane for right now? Because so you can see how easy it is to go off the road and go after stuff. And that's why we have Tony, because Tony's going to take care of all the strategic communication and engagement. He's going to keep all the community members right in their place too. And so the timing of him is perfect, but we know we have some SFID decisions, and that's complicated, and Joe will be bringing in some experts on that, because none of us can articulate what that information says. But we do have some SFID considerations, which leads to the facility considerations, and then ultimately that starts to then chip away at boundary situations, so on and so forth. And again, even with the transfers, and Dr. Dobson can tell you, she's been putting some clamps down on that with 3 schools closed, which means that's about 50 emails she's received since this meeting started in appeals, and emotions and tears that she has to deal with. So we are countering that as we go with this as well, balancing, choice but space. So I think probably our next meeting, Joe, we'll probably start to bring some of the SFID facility information, because that's just, right now we're just going to keep bringing that information, because we know this will be big and ongoing for quite some time. But I do think we have some facility decisions to make quickly, or at least so Joe and his team can come back with options. What does it look like with SFID? How do we utilize that? Because there's some decisions within SFID, how much money it generates and what we do with that. Then we have to decide, what are we going to build, in terms of a priority or needs assessment there, with what you saw today. And then that leads to, again, the Oakmont Island. I like the Bullshine Island better, but give Mark credit for it. But what does that look like? And then what does Placer One look like? Because we have to make a decision on them, because if for some reason they were not a part of West Park, we have to now create that disclosure with developers. And we know how dissatisfying that will be to the developers if they have to say, you're paying an SFID, but you don't get to go there. So those are kind of our short-term decisions over the next few months, I think we have, and knowing this will likely be 6 months to a year in conversation. And we're running it with our partner district, Roseville City. They're making these, kind of going through this similar process, just down at their K8 scale. So Joe, probably bring back some of your short-term information for our next meeting. And does that sound okay? Especially on the SFID, to get clarity on SFID and what we can do, can't do, and there's options within that we can build this, or we can build this, or we can build this, so that we can start at least looking at the various options that we have to go down. So,
yeah, that sounds good. I was going to mention in the past, it would have gone to like a facility finance committee, but because I think of the gravity of this, it makes sense to go to the full board. So I just want to mention that, so the facility finance committee doesn't feel like they're being shortchanged. It's just because of how big it is. I think it makes sense to go to the full board.
And I might just suggest trying to look at it from a governance perspective, having these what are likely to be protracted discussions during board meetings when we have board business to do. We might want to consider naming a committee of the whole and having facilities meetings as a committee of the whole, and scheduling those so that we can get deep into a subject and not be looking at, okay, it's 8:30, I told my kids I'm gonna be home by 9, you know, that type of thing, so we can really focus on it and be one topic specific. That would be my preference.
I agree with that, Pete. I think that would be really helpful. We could sit down, look at each other, really talk about things in depth and not be feeling a little time constrained or a little tired.
Yeah, I agree, because I feel like a lot of it has a lot of urgency, and some of it has to happen regardless of like more students are coming, just to be able to accommodate the students that we already have. Some of it needs to happen soon, but then I don't want to rush, so we just need more time, all of us together. I like that. Okay. Any other thoughts then?
And I really like what Marla said in terms of let's make sure we're addressing, I mean, I think there's multiple things, but let's make sure we really know what we're addressing here.
Like what the problem.
Yeah, what the problem
is.
is. The problem.
No, there might be two.
All right, are we comfortable to move on from that then? And we have 8.3 staff comments. Okay. And then 9.1, pending agenda items, which it sounds like is all of 8.2 that will carry over to each meeting. And then the rest of them we have up here. So looks like next meeting we'll have our LCAP maybe review them on the 25th. Does that sound right to you? Okay. All right. Well, very good then. 8:48.
Well, no, we're gonna, we still gotta go back to closed session.
Well, yes, and someone can start your motion, right?
No.
Before I do go.
No, we just adjourned to closed session.
Okay, we're gonna adjourn to closed session.